The bustling studio of The View lights up with the familiar energy of morning television, the audience clapping enthusiastically as the co-hosts take their seats around the curved table adorned with fresh flowers and steaming mugs of coffee. Joy Behar, with her signature wit and unfiltered candor, kicks off the segment with a lively discussion on the latest Hollywood blockbusters, her eyes sparkling under the bright lights as she gestures animatedly, drawing laughs from the crowd. Whoopi Goldberg, ever the steady anchor, nods along, interjecting with her deep, resonant voice to keep the conversation flowing smoothly, while Sunny Hostin adds layers of legal insight to the film's plot twists, her poised demeanor contrasting Joy's exuberance. Sarah Haynes bounces in her chair, her enthusiasm infectious as she shares a personal anecdote about binge-watching the movie with her kids over the weekend, the room filling with that warm, relatable vibe that makes The View a staple for millions. Then, the announcement comes: "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the incomparable, the legendary, Meryl Streep." The applause erupts like thunder, fans on their feet as Meryl glides onto the set, her elegant presence commanding immediate silence and awe. Dressed in a flowing emerald gown that catches the light just so, her smile gracious yet hinting at the depth of stories behind her eyes. She hugs each host warmly, lingering a beat longer with Whoopi, whispering something that elicits a shared chuckle, before settling into the guest chair with the poise of someone who's navigated 1,000 spotlights. The segment begins innocently enough, with praise lavished upon Meryl's latest role in a poignant drama about resilience and reinvention, the hosts gushing over her transformative performance, clips rolling on the monitors behind them showing snippets of her raw, emotional scenes that leave even the crew misty-eyed. Joy leans forward, her voice dripping with admiration. "Meryl, darling, you've done it again and made us all ugly cry in the best way possible. But tell us, how do you tap into that vulnerability? Is it method acting, or just your infinite soul?" Meryl laughs softly, a sound like wind chimes, and responds with her trademark humility, "Oh, Joy, it's less about method and more about the people around me, the director's vision, the co-star's energy. We all bleed into each other on set." The exchange flows like silk, the audience hanging on every word, but there's a subtle undercurrent, a spark in Joy's eyes as she probes deeper, perhaps sensing an opportunity to unearth something more personal, more revealing, as the conversation meanders toward Meryl's illustrious career, touching on classics like The Devil Wears Prada and Sophie's Choice. Sunny chimes in with a question about the challenges of portraying complex women in an industry still grappling with equality, her tone earnest and probing. Meryl nods thoughtfully, her fingers tracing the edge of her water glass. "It's a dance, isn't it? One step forward, two back sometimes, but the stories we tell, they matter. They shift perspectives, even if slowly." The room absorbs this wisdom, a collective sigh of agreement rippling through, but Joy, never one to let a moment pass without her flair, pivots sharply. "Speaking of shifts, Meryl, you've been so vocal about politics lately, Trump, the environment, women's rights. Don't you think Hollywood stars like you sometimes preach from ivory towers, alienating the very people you're trying to reach?" The question lands like a pebble in still water, ripples spreading, the audience murmuring softly, caught off guard by the edge in Joy's voice, a blend of curiosity and challenge that she's famous for wielding like a scalpel. Meryl pauses, her expression unchanging but her eyes sharpening just a fraction, the air thickening with anticipation as the cameras zoom in, capturing every nuance of this unfolding drama. Whoopi senses the shift, her hand subtly gesturing to steer back, but it's too late as the clash is ignited, the brutal exchange brewing beneath the surface of civility, ready to erupt in the heart of live television where truths are bared and feathers ruffled without mercy. Meryl tilts her head slightly, her voice steady as a composer's baton. "Joy, if speaking out from any tower of ivory or otherwise means amplifying voices that are silenced, then I'll gladly climb as high as they let me." Alienation? Perhaps, but silence is the real alienator, don't you think? The audience erupts in a mix of cheers and gasps, the split-screen reactions flashing across the monitors, some nodding fervently, others wide-eyed in shock at the direct riposte. Joy, undeterred, her Brooklyn roots shining through in her unyielding posture, fires back with a laugh that's half genuine, half armor. "Oh, honey, I've been silencing no one for decades on this very show. I've called out presidents, popes, and prima donnas alike. But when Oscars go to activism instead of art, it feels like we're trading talent for tweets." What's next? Meryl nominating Greta for Best Actress because she glues herself to streets? The jab slices through the studio, laughter bubbling from a few corners while others shift uncomfortably in their seats. The energy electric now, like static before a storm. Sarah tries to mediate, her voice light and conciliatory. "Ladies, let's remember we're all on the same side here, you fighting for progress, right?" But the momentum is hers no longer. Meryl's gaze locks onto Joy's, a quiet fire kindling. Greta's courage is art in motion, Joy a raw, unscripted, the kind that doesn't need a red carpet to matter. And tweets? They're the modern town crier, not the villain you paint them as. We've both used our platforms. The difference is, I don't mistake volume for validity. The words hang heavy, the audience's applause thundering in waves, some chanting Meryl's name softly, others murmuring support for Joy's no-holds-barred style that has defined The View since its inception. Whoopi, the maestro of moderation, interjects with her booming timbre. All right, let's not turn this into a sequel to The Devil Wears the Prada. We've got commercial in too, but hold that thought." Yet the tension simmers, unquenched, as the hosts shuffle papers and sip water, stolen glances exchanged like chess moves in a high-stakes game. Back from break, the segment resumes with a lighter note as Sunny pivoting to Meryl's upcoming projects. A whimsical comedy that promises to showcase her comedic chops but the undercurrent persists. Joy's foot tapping rhythmically under the table, a telltale sign of her brewing retort. As Meryl describes the film's quirky ensemble, her hands painting vivid pictures in the air, Joy interrupts mid-sentence, her tone laced with faint innocence. "Sounds delightful, Meryl, but tell me, does this comedy poke fun at the elite bubble we all float in? Or is it just another escape from the real clashes, like the ones we're having right now?" The studio falls into a hushed anticipation, the director signaling frantically to the crew, aware that this live moment could go viral before the credits roll. Meryl, unflinching, meets the challenge head-on, her response measured yet piercing. "Escape, Joy? Art isn't escapee, it's confrontation in costume. If my comedies make you laugh at the absurdities of power, then perhaps that's the sharpest clash of all." The exchange escalates, words volleying like a tennis rally at Wimbledon, each serve more potent than the last. The audience riveted, phones aloft capturing every syllable for posterity. Sarah's attempts at humor fall flat against the intensity, while Sunny's analytical asides only fuel the fire, her questions dissecting the philosophy behind their barbs. Whoopi, sweat beading on her brow under the lights, finally calls a tentative truce, but not before the brutal core of the confrontation lays bare the generational chasm between reverence for unfiltered truth and the nuanced advocacy of a lifetime in the glare. As the clock ticks mercilessly toward the segment's end, Joy leans in closer, her voice dropping to that conspiratorial whisper that hooks viewers every time. "Meryl, level with USA after all these years. Do you ever tire of the sanctimony in this town? The way we pat ourselves on the back for brave roles while the world burns outside?" The question, loaded like a clip in a chamber, elicits a sharp intake of breath from the front row, where superfans clutch Meryl memorabilia like talismans. Meryl's lips curve into a wry smile, the kind that has disarmed critics and co-stars alike. Sanctimony, Joy? That's a heavy word for people trying to light candles in the dark. I've burned it figuratively and almost literally on some sets, but tiring. Passion doesn't fatigue, it forges. The riposte draws a standing ovation fragment, chairs scraping as half the audience rises, the other half frozen in debate with neighbors, whispers of "she's right" and "Joy's got a point" weaving through the air like smoke. Undaunted, Joy presses on, her hands played on the table like a poker player revealing her hand. Forging what, exactly? More division? Look, I love you, Meryl, you're a goddess, but when stars like you jet to galas preaching carbon footprints, it rings hollow. We've got real workers here in America grinding without the glamour. Maybe listen more, lecture less. The studio pulses with the raw honesty of it, cameras panning to capture teary eyes and defiant nods. The live feed undoubtedly spiking ratings as this clash transcends entertainment into cultural commentary. Meryl, her posture impeccable, counters with the precision of a fencer. Hollow, my carbon footprint pales next to the industry's giants. Joy, but point taken. A listening is the bridge I build every role. Yet lecturing, that's just sharing scars from battles you've fought to, in your own arena. We're allies, not adversaries, unless you choose the ring. The words cascade like a soliloquy, Meryl's voice modulating from soft introspection to firm resolve, the audience enraptured, some wiping away tears at the vulnerability peeking through her steel. Whoopi seizes the lull, her laughter booming to shatter the ice. Phew, if this were a movie, we'd need a sequela and therapy bills. Meryl, before we wrap, one last thing, what's the role that's changed you most? But Joy, ever the provocateur, isn't done, interjecting with a playful yet pointed aside. Yeah, and does it involve clashing with co-hosts who call you out? Laughter erupts, tension easing into a cathartic release, as Meryl chuckles genuinely, the first crack in the armor revealing the human beneath the icon. Sunny jumps in, her legal mind dissecting the moment's merits. This is gold. A raw dialogue like this is why we tune in, to see icons humanized, not pitish-tailed. Sarah nods vigorously, sharing a quick story of her own on-air spats that bonded rather than broke, the table warming again with shared anecdotes. Yet the brutal exchange lingers, its echoes in every sidelong glance, as Meryl wraps her answer on transformative roles, citing Mamma Mia for its joy amid chaos, a met nod to the morning's mayhem. The credits loom, but not before one final zinger from Joy, delivered with a wink. Meryl, clash with me anytime Mia keeps us young. The audience roars, the embrace that follows sealing a truce born of fire. Live television's magic in full, unedited bloom, where brutal truths forge unlikely kinships under the unrelenting gaze of the world. Post-commercial, the atmosphere has shifted palpably, the studio humming with a post-storm clarity, as if the clash has aerated the room, allowing fresher air to circulate among the hosts and guests alike. Meryl, now more relaxed, her shoulders loosening as she sips from her mega herbal tea, no doubt, to soothe the vocal cords tested by verbal sparring. Dives into a heartfelt recounting of her early days in theater, the dingy off-Broadway stages where dreams were hammered out amid heckles and heartaches. Joy listens intently, her earlier fire banked but not extinguished, nodding with genuine curiosity that bridges their divide. I get that, Meryl. New York grit shaped me too, yelling at audiences before they yelled back. The exchange softens the edges, the audience leaning in, sensing the pivot from confrontation to connection. Phones still recording but now with smiles creasing faces. Whoopi facilitates seamlessly, her questions weaving threads of commonality. Both of you, trailblazers in your field, so how has age only amplified that fire? Sunny elaborates, drawing parallels to civil rights icons who've clashed publicly yet united privately, her voice a soothing balm over the earlier abrasion. Sarah, ever the optimist, shares a clip from a past episode where a similar dust-up led to lasting friendships, the monitors flickering with archival footage that humanizes the chaos. As Meryl elaborates on the evolution of her craft, from stage fright to standing ovations, Joy interjects with a question that's more olive branch than olive pit, and the brutal exchanges, like ours today, do they mirror the ones on set that birth your best work? Meryl's eyes light up, the actress in her seizing the cue. Absolutely, Joy. Friction is the spark. Without it, we'd all be reciting lines in a vacuum. Yours today, inspired a monologue in my head already. Laughter ripples anew, warmer this time, the audience clapping in rhythm, a spontaneous beat that underscores the harmony emerging from discord. The segment deepens, veering into discussions of mentorship, Meryl praising younger talents like Zendaya and Timothée copyright Chalamet, her anecdotes laced with humility that disarms any lingering skepticism. Joy counters with tales of her own influences, from Barbra Streisand to the unsung writers who've penned her sharpest barbs, the table alive with cross-pollination of stories, each host contributing a petal to the blooming narrative. Yet beneath it all, the brutal exchange simmers as a subplot, referenced in jests and asides that keep the energy taut, like a wire walker balancing on the edge of profundity and playfulness. Whoopi stares toward audience questions, a fan from the third row rising shakily to ask Meryl about balancing activism with artistry, her voice trembling with awe. Meryl's response is a masterclass in eloquence. It's not balance, it's integration. The activist fuels the artist, and vice versa separate them, and both with her. Joy applauds, her claps resounding. Touch a tilde copyright. Meryl, you've got me rethinking my next rant. The moment crystallizes the morning's arc, from clash to confluence. The live broadcast a testament to women's voices, unyielding yet unifying. The crew exchanging relieved glances as ratings tick upward in real time. Sarah wraps the cue with her own query on self-care amid scrutiny. Meryl advocating for quiet walks in nature, a serene counterpoint to the studio's frenzy. As the hour wanes, the hosts rise for a group hug. Meryl enveloped in the circle, Joy's arm around her shoulders in a gesture that speaks volumes, the audience on its feet once more, chanting the view, the view. In ecstatic farewell, the brutal exchange now legend in the making, a viral vignette of valor and vulnerability entwined, with the final commercial break stretching just long enough for makeup touch-ups and whispered pep talks. The show hurtles toward its explosive close, the co-hosts regrouping with renewed vigor, the air still crackling from the earlier thunder. Meryl, now fully immersed, launches into an impromptu song snippet from her Broadway days, her voice a velvet ribbon unfurling, drawing gasps of delight and a spontaneous harmony from Whoopi, whose gospel roots shine through in perfect pitch. Joy, caught off guard but game, joins with a comical off-key warble, the levity a deliberate detox from the depth, the audience howling with joy at the unscripted symphony. Sunny, analytical as ever, segues into a segment on the power of female solidarity in media, citing statistics on viewership spikes during controversial moments, her pointer finger jabbing at a graphic on the screen that underscores the cultural impact. Sarah amplifies with personal vulnerability, admitting how past on-air tensions have honed her resilience, her eyes glistening under the lights as she thanks Meryl for modeling grace under fire. The conversation circles back inevitably to the clash, now dissected with affection rather than acrimony. Joy conceding with a theatrical sigh, Meryl, you slayed me today. Diplomatically, of course, but seriously, your poise, envy-inducing. Meryl waves it off modestly, her retort laced with warmth, and your fire, Joy, it's the oxygen this show breathes. We need both a spark and steady. The mutual admiration flows like fine wine, toasting to the brutal exchange as a badge of authenticity, the audience absorbing the lesson in real time, murmurs of agreement swelling into applause. Whoopi, ever the closer, introduces a surprise, a montage of Meryl's most iconic clashes on screen, from Kramer vs. Kramer courtroom dramas to the icy standoffs and out, clips rolling with thematic music that ties neatly to the morning's metadrama. As the reel plays, the hosts react live, Joy quipping over a tense scene, see, even in fiction, you are unflappably take notes, ladies. Laughter cascades, easing any residual edges, while Sunny notes the evolution of female antagonists from villains to victors in Streep's oeuvre. Sarah poses a hypothetical, if today's clash were a movie, who'd direct? Meryl, quick as a whip, replies, Spielberg for the heart or Scorsese, for the grit. The banter builds to a crescendo, the clock merciless, as fan art scrolls on the side monitors sketches of Meryl and Joy as dueling divas, shared by viewers in real time via social media integrations. Joy, scrolling her phone discreetly, reads one aloud, Meryl and Joy, the View's verbal Valkyrie as I love it. Truce. Meryl extends her hand across the table, the shake captured in close-up, symbolizing reconciliation forged in the furnace of frankness. The segment swells with final thoughts, Meryl urging viewers to vote, volunteer, and vocalize, her call to action ringing with the authority of experience, while Joy adds her signature spice, and clash kindly, folks, it's how we grow. Whoopi seals it with a prayer-like benediction on unity amid diversity, the audience rising in ovation as credits prepare to roll. The brutal exchange now the heartbeat of an episode etched in television lore, a live testament to the beauty and bold discourse,